Hola amigos, bien o no, y saludos desde Medellín. Hoy el tema es cuando estamos preparando, por ejemplo, para tomar una presentación o para una entrevista, algo en esta forma de conversación, puede ser poco difícil porque están solo enfocando como cuáles palabras tú necesitas. Pero yo creo también un mejor punto para empezar esta preparación es no para pensar solo como cuáles palabras, para más importante con quién. Ese es el tema de hoy. So, thinking about this, if we're preparing for like a presentation or perhaps an interview or some other more formal conversation of that type, sometimes we can get a bit stuck just thinking about all of the words we need to memorize for the conversation, which could be quite a few if we're preparing for difficult questions, and that might be quite a lot to try and take in. So before we start on writing the script and thinking about what do we want to say, I suggest perhaps it might be better at the beginning to think of who is going to be at that conversation, in the sense of who you're going to be talking to, like who is your audience, what are they expecting of you, what kind of things are they looking for, how can you help them, how is this conversation with that person or group of people, how are you going to benefit them by having that conversation with them. And to some extent it's also thinking about what aspect of yourself, what part of you are you going to bring to that conversation. It's literally who are you taking to that conversation, because maybe you need to put on a different hat, as it were, depending on whether it's more of a social conversation, a formal conversation, or you're going because of your job specialism, something like that. So maybe start the preparation a bit further out. Think about who is going to be there and what are they expecting, or how can you help them with by having this conversation. How is that going to help particularly them? Or equally you can look at it in terms of what do you need to get out of that conversation, but particularly what are you bringing to it. Once you've understood who is in the room, and that includes you, then it's a bit easier to start looking at what you want to say in that ideal situation. Because if we just start with, okay, I have an interview, I need to prepare these things, we can end up with a bit of a break from standard answers, which might not really be quite what you wanted to say, either because they're not suited to you as your personality, or perhaps they're not really the most appropriate for the person you're going to be talking to. So think about that. That's part of it as well, because when we're having conversations, what we're trying for really is to get a nice rapport with the people we're talking to. And a lot of that is trying to understand who they are. So that's the thought for the day. Think a bit more about who you're having the conversation, or who is going to be in that conversation, including you, and see if that helps you make better choice of the vocabulary you might need to take with you. Think about that one. Déjame saber en los comentarios. But for now, from Medellín, it's Cheerio.